So come and find a comfortable seat, whatever that happens to look like or feel like for you. Hi, Kath. And, you know, if you're at home, sometimes that comfortable seat literally is with your back against a wall or in a chair. And just notice, everyone, which shin did you put in front? Or how did you choose to sit? And sometimes we get into these very habituated ways of doing things. So you might try changing the cross of the legs, or you might just mix it up a little bit and see how that feels. Usually it doesn't feel as comfortable as doing it the first way. We tend to choose, or they call it organize. We tend to organize our bodies almost unconsciously in the way that feels most comfortable. So once you've found the comfortable or slightly uncomfortable way of sitting, just close your eyes. I always encourage you to have your palms facing upward on your sides. And really, because I feel like there's been so much tension the last year, even sitting with the block in the lap and placing the backs of the hands on the block, that often will help the muscles of the neck soften and relax a little bit. And so our initial exploration is in noticing, is there anything I need to adjust here? Is there anything that just physically does not feel good? If it doesn't feel good now, it's not going to feel good in 2 minutes from now. I'm reading to you this morning a writing that's entitled, "The Way is Hard, but Clear." The naturalist and environmentalist Kevin Schreibner tells us that salmon make their way upstream by bumping repeatedly into blocked pathways until they find where the current is strongest. Somehow they know that the unimpeded rush of water means that there is no obstacle there. And so they enter this opening, for though it is the hardest going, the way is clear. The lesson here is as unnerving as it is helpful. In both inner and outer adversities, the passage of truth comes at us with a powerful momentum because it is clear and unimpeded. And so, where we sense the rush of truth is where we must give our all. As human beings, the blocked pathways of our journey can take on many forms. And whether it be in avoiding conflict with others, or in not taking the risk to love, or in not accepting the call of spirit that would have us participate more fully in our days, it is often easier to butt up continually against these blocked pathways than to enter the one passage that is so powerfully clear. In this regard, salmon innately model a health persistence by showing us how to keep nosing for the unimpeded way, and once finding it, how to work even harder to make it through. So if we think of our bodies, everyone, as think of inside your body as a river. This is a very old idea about the yoga practice and the body, that there are these rivers, they're called vayus, these rivers inside of us. And we begin to move the body in such a way that it feels like we butt up against, in my body, sometimes it feels like a boulder. And the wisdom is saying, wow, that way clearly is blocked. If I keep pushing against that, I'm just going to create difficulty. So can I back up and look for the unimpeded route around that boulder to actually take me where I'm wanting to go. And I think one of the things that makes that concept challenging is many times it means doing less than we think we can do. And I don't know about you, but the one thing I've appreciated about the yoga during this whole experience is it gives me some sense of having a way to have control over my body. So it's always that balance, everybody, between efforting and ease, effort and ease. So with that said, I just want us to spend a little bit of time this morning on the ankles and the feet. So if you lean back slightly and step your feet onto the floor, and it doesn't matter how far apart they are at this point, just lift up your heels and feel the weight go into the toes. And as you sit here, you can actually look at your feet. Try to feel whether the weight is heavier in the right toes or the left toes. And then try to feel even more precisely, is there one toe that doesn't feel like it's got much weight on it at all? Now, as you slowly lower your heels and lift your toes, again, the question is, do I put more weight on one heel than the other? And just one or two more times, drop the toes, lift the heels, drop the heels, and lift the toes. And as you complete the third one, notice where else do you feel this in your body. And as you drop your heels and lift your toes, notice where else you feel that. And then we'll put our feet down and just pretend, I love this analogy, that there are little sensors under each toe that measure pressure. Try to pressurize the weight on all the toes evenly. Sometimes it makes my brain itch. It's like such a weird, yeah, good for you, Kate. You almost have to look down sometimes to see, am I really getting the weight on all the toes? Look at your toes, everybody. Sometimes some squinch up a little bit. In yoga, we're very interested in the baby toes a lot. Can you push more weight into the baby toes? We'll get to that process in a little bit. For now, though, you can stop staring at your feet and grab a blanket, a yoga blanket or a towel if you have one, and just put it at the back of the mat as you lie down. That will provide you with a little bit of support under your head. And you get to choose whether you lie down with legs that are long or legs that are bent. I'm going to come check on everybody at home for a second. Let's see, Annette, said Hobbs, can you angle your device down maybe just an inch? I can see the top of that puppy dog's head, but I can't see. Thank you, ma'am. And let's see, Kate, yours might have to angle down a little bit. Kathy, perfect view. Kathy Ray, perfect view. All right, great. Okay, so I'm looking around in the yoga studio, and we've got kind of a split. Half of the people have legs long, half the people have knees bent. If your legs are long, now notice, is the weight heavier on the back of one heel than the other? No, I think that's Rose. And if your knees are bent, try to get the weight a little bit heavier in the heels of the feet. Now from there, leave the feet for a second and travel north to your shoulders. Yep, and see if it feels like one shoulder blade is higher from the floor than the other one. Now, there's not much you can do about that initially. You can, yeah, good for you, Kathy Ray. You can try wiggling a little bit, but that tends to be more muscular tightness than it does something you're going to be able to adjust. And then feel, everybody, like the shoulders deflate a little bit. That the tension that we have been carrying around for a long time is being let out. And the shoulders drop into the floor. And maybe just that thought will help you take a deeper breath. And it's not that you try to take the deeper breath, it's that the breath comes in just more easily, more naturally. If you haven't closed your eyes, go ahead and do that. And notice, where do you feel your breath most obviously? There's no right answer to that, and there's certainly no wrong answer to that. Now push down a little bit more, everybody, on the heel of the left foot and draw your right thigh towards your belly. And we need to, I'm going to be very close to the camera because I want everybody to see how this works. You'll interlace your left and right fingers behind your right knee, and your thumbs need to clamp onto the knee itself. So the knee is a joint, and we want to isolate that joint. In other words, we don't want the knee to do the work. We want the ankle, thank you, Courtney, to do the work. So you're going to begin. Now you guys will have to count these for yourself. We're going to make 15 circles in a clockwise direction. And the goal, hang on, Wendy, is not to swing the leg. The goal is to keep the shin still and to make the ankle. Oh boy, it's tough. Yep, so the other thing I always notice more on my left foot is I think it's a circle, and then I look and it looks like some kind of weird, like octagon meets square, not circle. Sorry, and not move the shin. Yep, so the ankle is, the two shin bones come down into the ankle. And we're saying ankle, be still. I mean, ankle move and shins be still. And when you get to 15, everybody, I wouldn't go in the opposite direction. I would just simply put that foot on the floor, hang out for a second, and feel how different that right ankle feels than the left one. Doesn't the left one feel like it clocked out and left for Starbucks or something? Right, it's gone. Now we'll do the other side. So you'll pull your left leg in, interlace your fingers behind the knee, and clamp the knee. That's it. So 15 clockwise, that's hard enough just to figure out what's clockwise. By the way, everybody, I was doing a private yesterday with a gal who comes to classes, and she was saying, you're demonstrating less because you're watching the people at home more. Absolutely. If you need me to demonstrate, I'm happy to do it. Just let me know, and I'm trying to do it, but I guess I'm not doing it as much as I used to. So big circles. And does anybody feel like it's burning? Cracking. Yeah, cracking's pretty common. It's like the muscle raking over a tendon. It could be cartilage though. I mean, it's just your body. All right, when you get to 15, you're making circles. You're going to step that left foot down. Okay, cool. Now go back, everybody, to pushing the toes down and lifting the heels. So you'll have to bend your knees. I'm sorry, I didn't say that a second ago. So bend the knees and push the toes down and lift your heels, and then drop your heels and lift your toes. Yes. And just do that a couple of times. We'll experiment with what are we doing in these movements that might be helping that. That's it, buddy. Great. So the next time that the feet are flat on the floor, go back to the right leg, everyone. Same clamp, fingers interlace behind right thigh. Now counterclockwise 15 times. You probably will not get as much movement. And that has to do with the architecture of the lower leg. That's not a, you're doing it wrong thing. So counterclockwise, and every now and then look to make sure it's a circle or look to make sure you're trying to make a circle. Let me say it that way. And what can be very interesting is holding the breath here. So just notice that if 15 is too many, don't do as many. Watching you guys at home and everybody looks like you're making good attempts at circles. Yep, there you go, Joyce. Hey, Joyce, raise the shin a little bit in the air, the right shin, a little bit higher. Now try. It's probably going to just be more difficult. When you finish 15, the right foot will come to the floor, the right leg if you'd like, but pause, everybody. So you're always saying, what did that do? What's the residual effect of the movement? And now the leg comes towards you, fingers are interlaced behind. That's it, nice. And for me, left counterclockwise almost feels like an impossible task. Hearing lots of popping in the yoga studio, a lot of cracking. That's okay. Hey, Jillian, it looks like you're swinging the foot. See if you can get the shin to be still, quiet, they call it, and just, I know it's hard. It's really hard. That looks great, Joyce. Same in that. Both Kathy's. Yeah, Kate, great. Everybody's got it. Is anybody pursing their lips? Does anybody have their back molars touching? We don't need that. Let there be some space, everyone, between the back teeth. Let the eyes be soft. Good. And when you finish 15, left foot comes to the floor, and you're going to lengthen the legs this time, unless for some reason it's just an impossibility. Okay, beautiful. Now let's pick back up. This was our lesson 2 weeks ago. You're going to point your toes toward the front of your yoga mat, and then you're going to flex your toes toward your ankles. Great. Now, you don't have to go fast. You don't have to do big movement. You're trying to feel, everyone, a rocking in your body. So you'll feel it. Oh, you got it, Betty. Good for you. You'll feel it in the lower body, but hang out with it and see if you can feel the pull of the toes. Feels like it pulls your head toward the front of the yoga mat a little bit. When you draw your toes toward your ankles, it feels like it pushes your head toward the back of your mat a little bit. It's, yeah, you've got it, Lisa. Good for you. It's like going along for the ride. The feet are the motor and the body is the carriage that's being pulled. Yes, and then Jen, see if the heels can stay down. That'll be a different experience. Good, good, good. Okay, great. Now, after the next point and flex, everybody bend both knees and step your feet down. And then draw the right thigh toward the belly again. And it's so funny, at various times throughout this last year, I've noticed I go through almost phases of holding my breath. So in the yoga practice, when we feel that holding of the breath, it's a signal that we've gone a little bit too far. So can you push down on the heel of the left foot as you lengthen the right leg toward the ceiling? Now, it's okay, everybody, if the leg isn't fully elongated, fully straight. You're just going to point your toes here like a ballerina, and then draw your toes back towards your face. And it'll be 15 of these. And if you could bend your elbows, that would be lovely for your neck. And if you could watch your foot a couple of times, sometimes it feels like the foot is moving up and down without veering off to the side. But then you look up and you're like, why is my toes going out to the right? And if you find that, you don't want to hold the leg, that's okay too. It just means you have to work harder. Good. And you're constantly saying, am I clenching my jaw? Am I hardening my eyes? Can I relax my face? I've been sharing with you guys that I'm teaching a 91-year-old man, and ankle flexibility is a huge part of what we work on because, as you can imagine, the worry of falling is real. After the 15th one, everybody will step your right foot down onto the mat. And again, you pause for a second. And then draw the left side toward the belly, but don't hold the breath. Go to the point where it's just like, oh, yeah, okay, there it is. Then push that right heel down as you take the leg up toward the ceiling. Awesome. So start opposite. Draw the toes toward your kneecap first. Yeah, and then point the toes. So that counts as one. As I'm watching everybody, you all seem like you've taken the Girl Scout oath and everybody's counting 15. Not 14, 15. It's an arbitrary number, by the way. So I'll help you a little bit with what you might be feeling. As you draw your toes towards your face, feel how that stretches your calf muscle. As you point the toes toward the ceiling, feel how that stretches the front of the shin. And so if one is harder than the other, this is what I'm noticing about this gentleman that's 91, it can affect your balance because you have an imbalance in the tightness of the muscles of the lower leg. Who knew? I mean, good gracious. Why didn't they tell us this when we were like 10? You need to be on the lookout for this as you age. So pointing, where do I feel it the most? Which positioning of my foot is harder? And that's the musculature that's tighter. When you finish 15, everybody, just take the feet to the floor, the left foot to the floor, and bring your 2 feet together. So the big toes are butted up against each other now. And begin to drop the knees out to the sides and press the bottoms of your feet together. So this is the reclined version of cobbler's pose. And that you might need the blocks underneath the thighs. Now, here's what's interesting about this pose. You've done a lot of these, but let's really dial into the feet. Can you, first of all, everyone, press the heels of your feet together more and see if you can feel that all the way up into your inner thigh. So I like to use the analogy of a baby aspirin. Feel like there's a baby aspirin between your heels, and I'm saying, hey, could you crush this for me? Now, for a lot of people, the baby toe sides of the feet don't touch. Can you try to get them to touch? And then can you try to feel the surface of the 4th right toe and the 4th left toe touching all the way to the big toes? And then again, you notice like, wow, I can feel the big toes, but maybe my 4th left toe is a little vague. Our toes are critical for balance. Great question. So somebody just asked me, how much arch do we want to have in our backs? I want to say a normal amount, but that's different for everybody. I would not want it to feel like it was stressing my lower back. And if it does, I would put some blocks. Those of you at home, Annette, who's taken 2 blocks and she's positioned them perfectly the way I'd love for them to be positioned under the thigh. So let me show everybody here how that is. So the blocks go at an angle. They're not straight up, they angle to help hold up the legs. Because Betty's question is a really good one. You know, when the body can't open up, in this case in the hips, it'll go to the next joint, either above it or below it. And here the lower back would be the next available joint to help out. So now if you supported the knees, you might have a bit of an easier time pressing the feet together. But again, her question is really great because some of us that are very flexible, Kate Wallace, might not feel the middle of your back on the floor, and you want to. The mid back should be touching the earth. If that's a challenge, take your hands, everybody. Let me get really close to the camera and put the hands right underneath your breast. And there's a lot of tension in those muscles. They're called intercostals. And you can just easily, lightly push down on, it'll feel like you're pushing rib, but there's muscle between each of those ribs. And that in and of itself can help with a deeper breath. Yeah. Cool. So from here, everyone, think of the inner thigh muscles. They're called ADD adductors. Feel like you're squeezing the inner knees together. Hey, Kathy.
I have a question.
You go, girl.
Sorry, I was having trouble getting unmuted. When you said to press your toes together, when I was having trouble getting my toes together, I could feel my toe mounds. But then when I tried to actually feel my actual toes together, I would feel the toe mounds start to move away from one another.
Yeah, great call. I love it. We're going to work on that. Oh, I'm so excited. So let me, I feel, this is where I feel like, I love this. This is where I feel like I'm at the UN and I can hear the people at home, but nobody in here can hear them. So what she's saying, you guys, it's a great observation, is when she attempts to feel her toes press into one another, she feels the ball mound, which is right here, almost want to pull away from one another. Does anybody here feel that? Yes. Yeah, who said yeah? Lisa? Okay, cool. So we've got somebody else in the yoga studio that's feeling that as well. So let's do this, everybody. At home, you've got an advantage. If you could get a washcloth, although a yoga blanket will work beautifully, go ahead and roll to the side and sit up. And we're going to really dig into the feet. Oh, I love this, Kathy. I hadn't planned on teaching this, but this is awesome. So you'll need washcloths work great. Hand towels work great. And sometimes beach towels work. And if you're using a yoga blanket like I am, unfold it, because if it's unfolded, it's much easier to work with. Okay, cool. And Annette, those little booties would work really well too. So you're going to take your 5 toes. I'll come close to the camera in a second, everybody. And you are literally going to try to get the fabric between each toe and lift. I've got a yoga blanket. Lift that blanket off the floor. Like a chimpanzee, yeah, for sure. Okay, so let me get super close. So here's my blanket. I'm gonna have to hold it, everybody. And I'm gonna try to pick it up with my toes. So your toes, that's it, Kate. Your toes become fingers. Yeah, and hey, Kate, keep the heel down. Just lift the toes. Yes. And that it's got to be. Somebody it looked hard, and she turned her head to me and went, I tried to do 10 of these. I was so freaked out about 10 years ago that I couldn't do this, that I do 100 of these a day. 100. I am so, because let me tell you, you guys, and I see it in this 91-year-old man. If your toes can't move, it's a recipe for challenge. Yeah, so just do 10. 10's, you know, I know, right? Yes, ma'am.
No, I love you. And I will do whatever you tell me to do.
Yeah.
But I have to ask,
Yes, go.
what is this going to do for me if I make it to 90? Is it going to help me walk better?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. You guys, go ahead.
This part of my feet hurt now, but I used to do ballet and gymnastics and all that stuff. But this part of my feet now hurts because of the damage I did when I was younger. So is this going to help us?
We've got a question on why on earth are we doing this? This is the question. Will it, and our question was, if I make it to 90, if you've done 10 on the right, go to the left. If I make it to 90 years old, will this help me with my walking? Absolutely. It keeps the feet pliable. And it should feel, if you're having trouble with it, like I used to, it'll feel frustrating. Yeah, one foot is usually easier. Yeah. And that's what I'm noticing with the 91-year-old. He has some mobility in the right foot. And he always, if I ask him to take a step, he always steps with his right foot. So that's fine, unless you have a problem with your right foot or your right hip. And then you've got to be able to use your left one. Yeah, you're trying to just pick it up. Literally the way, let me use my hand, the way I would put the blanket between my fingers and pick it up. That's how you want to be able to use your foot. Okay, cool. Now from here, everybody, once you finish 10, just sit comfortably and bring the bottoms of the feet together, because this is where we just were. And see if there's any difference, especially for you, Kathy, and for you, Lisa, because y'all felt the same thing. Can I press my toes together and feel the ball mounds actually push into one another? Kathy, I'll get close to you in a second so I can see if that works. Another way to do this, everybody, is to take a block and to put the block long ways between your feet. This might help too, Kathy. And to literally push all 10 toes, let me get close, into the block. So imagine, everybody, my hands are my feet. I'm wrapping my feet around the block. Yep. And Annette, I would definitely, and Joyce too, and Kathy Ray too, move and Courtney, move the block forward, ladies. It'll be less intense for the hips because we're trying to work more in the feet. I've probably got 18 inches between my feet and the block. Now, as you squeeze the block, as you push your toes into the block, you should feel something in the upper inner thigh. And Kate, can you feel the core? Thumbs up, Kate, if you can. Awesome. And then let me get to Kathy. Kathy Enders, it looks like that was a thumbs up. You feel the feet more? Yes, awesome. So her question, everybody, is brilliant, because a lot of times it's just fuzzy. And if we do something that engages the musculature, the body says, oh, did you did you want me to turn on that light switch? Awesome, I'll do it. Okay, cool. Now lean back on your hands, everybody. Yep. I'm going to turn sideways. Sometimes I love to just give you guys things to do that are challenging, and this is one of them. So let me show you what your body's going to want to do. Your body's going to want to lean way back and lift your feet. But try not to. Try to use your inner thigh muscles and the muscles of your feet to lift the block. Oh, and your core. Yeah. Yes, like in the yoga studio, they're like this. So if you're at home like that, yeah, good for you, Kathy. So the more you push your feet into that block, the more it engages your inner thighs and it lets you lift. Hold on, did you get into that? It looked like you did. No? Yeah. So, initially you'll probably lean back. Hey, Joyce Mailhouse, move the legs forward. Oh, you got it. And you'll get it. So these are things, I hate to admit this, but this is what I do when I'm bored, which, is a lot these days. That's not true. I have a puppy that I'm trying to train. So you just ask yourself, wow, that's really, really interesting. So now our big experiment is to come and kneel, everybody. Kneel. Neil Young. No. Do you guys see where Paul Simon sold his card catalog? Yeah, right. Rock on, man. Okay, now can you come up and flip your toes? Fran, I know this probably won't work for you. Uh-oh. So we'll sit back on our heels, maybe. So my toes are flipped, yes. And if this is like an impossibility, what you can do instead, is just lengthen your right leg and push back through all 5 toes. I get it, it doesn't work for everybody. And then those of you that are able to sit on your heels, drop the tops of your feet to the floor and lean back and see if you can lift a knee and then another knee, or if you can, lift both. If you can't do what I just did, then you just sit and point your toes away from your knees. So there's always a way to do this, everybody. We just sometimes have to change. That's what he's talking about with that salmon reading. If the path is impeded, do it differently. Yes. So just 1 or 2 more times, however everybody's working. You sit back on your heels, maybe. So there's something on the bottoms of our feet that tend to get really, really tight. It's a web of fascia, and you can feel it stretching here. And then you come down. If you've ever had plantar fasciitis, you know what I'm talking about. Knees draw. Yeah, and it's because the muscles are tight. Yeah, maybe it's 1. Yes. Okay, good. From here, everybody, in the easiest way possible, just come and stand, and we'll work on the feet a little bit more. The feet are like the unsung heroes of our bodies. They really are so important. So stand in mountain pose for a moment. I might encourage you to take your feet hip width apart and lift up all 10 of your toes and let the weight press down into the backs of each heel. Yes. Now what will happen is the head will come up, and that's a beautiful thing. I work with my 90-year-old guy a lot on this. Oh, it's great, Jillian. Yeah, great, Joyce. Okay, cool. Now for anybody with back pain, slightly bend the knees, slightly. It's almost imperceptible. Yes. Okay. Yeah, it helps the lower back for sure. Good. Now, as you put your toes down, do you have control over them? Could you put just the baby toes down? It gets weird, right? And then the 4th toe, and then the 3rd toe, and then the 2nd toe, and then the big toe. Right? Good. Now think of ants, A-N-T-S for a second, ants. And they have these antennae on their head, and they use the antennae to feel what's going on around them. That's what your toes are meant to do. That's why they're so critical for balance. So can you feel like your toe tips are trying to grow to the front of your yoga mat? Yoga involves a lot of poetic imagination. But we know from practicing that if I just grow my toe tips long, I don't have complete balance in the foot. So I counterbalance that by pushing down on both heels. The toe tips grow forward, the heels cement downward. And again, if anybody feels this in the lower back, then just slightly bend the knees. Now from here, can you rock forward up onto your toes so that your heels lift away from the floor? And that will almost always cause people to hold their breath because it feels a little scary. And then drop your heels and lift. Nice, Joyce. I like the rock. Lift your toes. That's it, Court. And see if you can go back and forth, not so much quickly, but which foot do I put more pressure on? Think about this, you guys. If the ankle bone is connected to the knee bone and the knee bone is connected to the hip bone, constantly, it's like a tire on your car. Constantly putting more pressure on one than the other will change the structure over time. Up on my toes, down on my heels. Yes, good. And then balance it all out and just pause for a moment and roll to the baby toe sides of your feet. So you're lifting up the big toes, the second toes, maybe the third and the fourth toes. Yeah, so anybody with a lot of ankle inflexibility will tend to not like this. And then put the feet down. I put the toes down, I mean, and see if you can lift the baby toes. Yeah, maybe the fourth toe, the big toe stays down. It's really weird. It makes the brain kind of like go, what? I know, right? So now you say, let me balance the weight evenly on all 10 of those toes. The toes feel like they're going forward. The heels feel like they are pulling you into the earth. And let's just keep this exploration going a little bit. Grab 2 blocks, everybody. If you've only got one, you can work with one. In the studio, why don't y'all face the block window? And let's take the legs. I'm going to go for 3 feet, everybody, a yardstick apart. The higher your blocks are, the easier of a time you'll have. You're just going to come forward with your fingers on the block. And we're going to look at our feet. First question, are they parallel to one another? See if you can get them to be so. Yeah, in the studio, we've got less than 3 feet between the legs. So go wide. Go wide. That's it. At home, it looks, thank you, Courtney. Hey, Jillian, can you turn your device down a little bit? Move it down. I can't see your feet. I think everybody else I can. Okay, beautiful. That's it. So my feet are parallel. That's it. Now, can I get the weight even on all 10 toes? And what's kind of interesting, and y'all might feel this, is as you shift the weight on your toes, you might put more weight on your hands. Anybody feel that? Yeah, it's a kind of icky phrase. They call that parasitic movement. To create balance in one part of the body, I imbalanced another part of my body. So you just notice it. You just say, can I adjust that so that the weight on my hands didn't shift just because I shifted weight on my feet? And then go ahead and just bend the knees, everybody, and put the hands on the hips, really like sassy girl. And drive the heels of the feet down as you lift the toes. Drop the butt toward the floor, lift the breastbone up toward the ceiling. You've got it. And then once you're upright, put all the toes down. And just close the eyes for a second. And again, you say to yourself, is there one toe that still feels so dang fuzzy to me? I can't quite make contact with it. And when you're ready, open your eyes, bend your knees, and we'll heel toe together. Now we're coming back in a few minutes to stand, but I want to practice this pose sitting down. So can everybody come and sit, grab a yoga blanket, and you don't need any other props right now. Let me just refold this one. So you're sitting in a posture called Dandasana. It means staff pose. Your legs are long. It is recorded.
So how do I get access to the recorded and see this again?
Yeah. Thanks for asking. Email Susan, our office manager, and she'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you guys want the recording of this, just email Susan and she can get it to you. So now, you're welcome. Keep the right leg long and strong. And everybody turn. You got to go from the hips. Turn the left leg out to the left. So watch your foot. Your foot will be the last thing to move. I'm using my hands. So my knee turns, then my foot turns. Now begin to bend the left knee. You're going to come to the seated version of tree pose. With your left hand, everyone, take your fingers, your left fingers to your left toes and push the toes into the right leg. Just check on everybody. Got it. Yeah. So when we're in tree pose, and that's where we are going, the left toes and the left heel push against the right leg, and the right leg pushes back against the toes. And that they call that in Sanskrit pita. It means pressure. So from here, push the foot and the leg against one another as you start to lengthen the arms. Yes. Now, the other thing that should be happening is the buttock bones should be drawing together. Kate, right under the chest, pull back with those front ribs. Yes. Thank you. So are my buttocks engaged? It's one of the reasons the balance is so hard in tree pose if we're not plugging our buttocks together. Yeah, Annette, I'd support that knee because it just doesn't look happy. Same Kathy Ray, I'd put a block under your left knee. So now push out through the right heel. That's going to be your standing leg. And push the left foot and the right inner thigh or right lower leg against each other and engage the glutes. Awesome. And then just slowly come down. That's it. Now lean back a little bit, everybody, so that you can just slide that left leg long. Come back to Dandasana, the pose of the staff. Let me switch directions. And then turn the right, so the right thigh turns out, the right knee turns out, the right foot turns out, and you'll start to slide the right foot, however high it's going to come. And they're so different. Yeah. Now from here, take your 5 fingers and push the toes against the leg. It's a really solid contact that you're trying to make. The left leg pushes down and forward. Now, can I feel my buttocks gather, we call it, toward each other as I start to take my arms up? And when it gets difficult, push the legs together more. So let me get super close. Oh, hello, kitty cat. You don't want to feel it here, everybody. This is your upper trap muscle. You got to use the lower body to not feel it in the neck and in the shoulders more. That's great, Annette. Lift the breastbone up a tiny bit. Yes, Jillian, great. Courtney, great. Okay, cool. So lower the arms, slide the right leg long. You have to lean back a little bit to make that happen. And then everybody, from the very tops of the thighs, feel like you're turning the thigh bones out, the inner knees away from each other, the feet away from each other, and start to bring the bottoms of the feet together without bending the knees very much. See, that takes flexibility. Oh yeah, I got a little cramp. Can I get the bottoms of my feet together? Now lean back and pull the foot. Oh, I got a real cramp in that. Pull the feet close together. Yeah. And then if you have to, use your fingers and smush. That's a very official yoga term. Smush the toes into one another. And sometimes, sort of like when we bring our hands together, one foot pushes more than the other. So important that we notice these things. So now bring the heels of the hands together, the finger pads together. And can you push down on your tailbone? Lift up with your breastbone. And feel the head lift. And then did my toes lose contact with each other? My big toes did. So from here, we're going to lean back and scoop our knees together. And let's come and stand. Right at the top of the mat, everybody, with the block on either side of your feet. If you only have one block, I would put it out in front. And just come and stand upright. Learning this stuff is great, and then it's great to just move. So mountain pose, feet about hip width apart. I'll turn and see you guys here. So I'll do the first side with everybody, and then I'll watch and come see you guys at home. So can I feel like my toe tips are growing forward? My heels are anchored down. I'll take my arms up and alongside my head. And keep pushing the heels as you reach the fingers. Wait for a breath out, everybody. And on that breath out, fold the body forward. Yes, good. Now from here, bend the knees and let's step backward with the right leg about 3 feet. And you just need to pause for a second and make sure the weight's even on all 5 toes on that right foot. Yes. And then from there, flatten the hands, pull the right leg and your bottom backward and come to down dog, pulling the left leg back. Yes. Okay, good. Now from here, take the feet as wide as the yoga mat. And if you look at your feet, everybody, you'll get your baby toes there, but then you have to move your heels out. So the heels, the outer heel is on the edge of the yoga mat. So when you move the heels out, heels. Yes, good. Now from there, come up onto your toe tips and then drop your heels and try to lift your toes. And you're going to feel it right in the backs of the legs. So do that one more time. You lift the toes, you lift the heels. We should be able to move our ankles in our yoga poses. Yeah, good. And then just pause. That's it. You've all got it. And we'll walk our way to the front of the mat. It'll help to take the legs less wide. And then once you get here, we're going to draw the 2 legs together this time. Edges of your big toes are touching. We'll bend our knees, sit down like there's a stool there, and start to take the arms out to the side. Awesome. That's it, Courtney. Now you're heavy in the heels of your feet. Let me look around. And you should be able to see your big toes, everybody. The arms come up alongside the head, and it feels like your toes are trying to creepy crawl all the way to the front of the yoga mat. Does anybody feel that in their butt a little bit more? Not talking to me. Okay, heavy the heels. Reach up through the fingernails. Stand all the way up. Awesome. And the next time you breathe out, fold forward again. I'm going to come watch it home. Great. So let's see, Courtney and Joyce, can y'all move the blocks back by your feet so they're right by your ankles? There you go. Now step back, left foot, correct? Yes. Yeah, left foot's going back. That's it, Annette. Really wiggle it back, everybody. It ought to almost feel like it's slipping backward, that left foot. Yeah, there you go. Now push the weight even into all the toes. It feels like I pull you by your pelvis backward into downward facing dog. So back you go. Nice, Joyce. Well done. That's it, Annette. Good. Now, can you heavy your heels and lift your toes? So maybe you need to walk in a little bit to make that happen. And then can you come up onto your toes without putting weight on the hands? Remember, we started working on this on last Friday. Yeah, I'm picking up our lesson. That's it, Annette. So you got to engage your core. That's what's so dang hard about it. Nice, Joyce. So I would try it one more time. I come up on my toes, but I don't let the weight shift into my hands. I drop my heels, I lift my toes, the weight will go backward. Good. And then just walk your way, nice everybody, up to the top of the yoga mat. Who knew working on the feet could be so dang hard? You get up to the top of the mat, the edges of your big toes come together. You're going to slowly bend your knees. So the heels get heavy, the toes lengthen forward. The arms begin to come out to the side. And you say, okay, they call this powerful pose for a reason. That's it. So can I get heavier in the heels? Wow, you guys look great. Everybody, let me just quickly look. That's it. Okay, good. Now feel like your fingernails are going to pull you up. You got it, Wendy. Yes. And as you stand all the way up from the fingers pulling you up, heavy your heels and lengthen your toes big time. And just let the arms come down. Great. All right, everybody, separate the feet a little bit wider now. And we're going to go back to coming up onto the toes and lifting the heels. This time, though, we're going to add a piece. As you drop your heels, bend your knees. As you lift your toes, straighten your legs. As you put your toes down, bend your knees. So when 2 feet are on the floor, the knees are bent. When they're flat, you know what I mean, when the entire foot is on the floor. This is great for our knees. Our knees, our hips, our ankles are all flexing. It's almost like you're playing basketball. You're dribbling down the court. I know you're all doing that when you're not in yoga class. Now just slow the roll and walk the 2 feet together. Step down into the right heel more firmly and begin to pick up the left foot. Good. From the top of that left side, turn the leg out. And I'm going to go into what they call mini tree. That's when the foot is lower than the knee, because I really want to feel all 5 toes of my left foot touching, literally making contact with my right lower leg. And then my left heel makes contact, firm contact. So that's the first phase. Second phase is my right leg pushes back into my left foot. Yes. Now, if you feel the left inner thigh, if you feel your buttocks working, start to take the arms up. And if you go slow enough, everybody, you'll feel it. As the arms go up, the leg and the foot push more into each other to support that. Yeah, yeah. If somebody's having trouble with balance, put the left toes on the floor. Thank you, Wendy. Okay, good. Now, can you stand there and concentrate on the push of the left foot into the right leg? Y'all are doing great at home. Yeah, and you come out. That's it, Kathy. You come out when it's done. Sometimes the right ankle won't accommodate it very much. Good. When you've had enough, lower the left foot to the floor.
Do we ever get to the point where we can move our foot off the floor?
Without falling?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she was asking, do you ever get to the point, she has her toes on the floor where you can do this pose without falling? Yeah, just takes practice. I mean, really, balance is a skill.
I used to be able to do it.
Right, I know, and we have to redevelop it.
Is it our feet and our balance that we're doing today?
It's a lack of, yeah, for sure. Feeling the feet, just walking around barefoot helps us. So trying not to wear shoes so much. Okay, so onto the left foot we go. And we need to turn this right leg out to the right. And then we need to say, okay, let me find an easy place. So remember the unimpeded path that the salmon is looking for. That's what you're looking for. An unimpeded path where I can feel the toes of my right foot push into my left leg. And then I can feel my left leg, or my right leg if you're on the other side, push back. And that's what Jillian can feel, the arms sort of wobble a little bit. All of that should create a gathering together of the buttocks. Kate Wallace, give me a thumbs up if you feel your glutes. When you come down, you can give me a thumbs up. Awesome! Yay! That's it, Betty. So can I push that left heel down to lengthen my waist and my arms up? And can I reach my left toes forward? Because a lot of people squinch their toes in tree pose. And that won't help with the balance, unfortunately. And point my fingers, like if I harden my wrist, it'll help me out a little bit. I get it. I like the clenching of the jaw. That's one of my personal favorites, because that's what I do. And then turn the knee forward. Everybody step down on the feet. I know, it's intense. And breathe. Yeah, now let's go back to this funky thing where we're rolling weight to the baby toe sides of our feet. Yeah, I want to be able to get my fingers under your feet here. Yes, and then put all the toes down. Try to keep the big toes on the mat as you lift as many of your other toes as you can. It's funky, isn't it? Makes my brain itch. Yeah. So one is usually a little easier. Go back to rolling to the outer edges of your feet. Hey, Kathy Enders, is that the easier one for you? Eh. And then put the toes, big toes down and try to lift the baby toes. Yeah. Anybody else's feet hurt was the question. Mine feel like they're being poked at. I mean, I definitely feel like I'm working my feet. I'm aware of my feet big time. Good. And then from here, let's come back and we're going to lie down on the yoga mat. Actually, let's sit on the yoga mat. I changed my mind. Let's sit and take your left hand, everyone, and wedge your left fingers between each of your toes. Do you guys remember they used to make these things called yoga toes, and you're supposed to put them between your toes and it would do something? Yeah, they were really expensive. Okay, so all 4 fingers are between your right toes. Like a pedicure, just like a pedicure. And then all you're going to do is point your toes back with your left hand and then pull them forward. So what I'm trying to do is, we were working in the front of the shin. Now I'm trying to get onto the tops of your feet. And that, yeah, it is interesting. Do y'all feel that? Tops of your feet? Yeah, let me see at home. sometimes just getting the fingers in between the toes is icky feeling. Yeah, I love it. Everybody's kind of got a different way that they're sitting and doing this. That's great. But when you point your toes, when you push your toes towards your right ankle, it stretches that fascia on the bottom of the foot. And when you pull your toes toward the front edge of your yoga mat, it stretches the top of the foot. Let's switch legs. I will say that over the years, I've noticed that men tend to have a lot more inflexibility in their feet than women do. Yeah, I'm thinking it's probably their shoes, but I don't know. Okay. So same thing, everybody. Wedge all your fingers between your left toes, and then push your toes towards your left ankle, and then pull your toes into your hand more. Oh, I'm glad. Finally, something that feels good for somebody. Yeah, toes are funky. Feet are funky. So if there's, if you find yourself this weekend with a little boredom, I'd work on the feet. Sure. Huh?
You're trying your big toe.
Yeah, I'm pulling it and bending it. Yeah, but I work with this a lot. I'm so freaked out by people falling that I've been working on my feet for years. So grab a block, everybody, and put that block long ways. We're going back to where we started. Long ways between your 2 feet. And you can sit back as far as you'd like from the block. Now let's just imagine that we're standing. Can I lengthen my toe tips forward? And can I push my heels downward? And my guess is, my hope is everybody feels a little bit more of a connection now with the feet. Like that doesn't seem quite so alien. And then if you push the feet into the block a little bit, see if you can feel your inner thigh muscles engage. Yeah, they have to. And if they're not, you want to know what muscles are engaging instead. And then just come back onto your back. So it's a slow roll backward. And for anybody that's inner thighs and hips are just not very happy, don't stay too long. But can I just keep imagining my toe tips are lengthening forward. My heels are pressing evenly into the block. And then just release that. Good. Now from here, scoop up the knees. So in other words, turn the knees towards the ceiling, step on your feet, and have your big toes touching the block, everybody. And with your big toes, squeeze the block. So when I look at people's feet, bunions usually start in the big toes. Yeah, first, second, and third toes. So push the big toes, Kate. How does that feel? Push the big toes into the block and then release. Yep, and then push the big toes into the block and release. Yeah. That's it. Good. Awesome. Now from here, everybody, use your feet to pick up your block and bring it towards your face. That's it. And then just put the block off to the side, put the feet back down, and lengthen the left leg to the front of the yoga mat. Okay, great. So now the same rules apply, the same anatomical rules apply, but we're doing things a little differently because we're lying down. Here, your left heel pushes down into the mat and your left toes lengthen to the ceiling. Yes. From there, walk the right foot to the left inner leg. That's it. Drop the knee out to the side and press the right toes against the left leg. Press the left leg back against the toes. And maybe you put a block under the right knee. It just makes it a little bit easier. Yes. Good for you, Kathy, right? Now, can you keep pushing down on the left heel as you take the arms up toward the ceiling? Now go slow, because there should be a moment when you feel the pressure between the foot and the inner leg more. And start to take the arms backward, backward, backward toward the floor. Nice, Kate. That's it. Yeah, there you go. Who's that, Courtney? Yes. Now back to the question that was asked in the yoga studio, how much arch should I have in my lower back? It's going to arch when the arms go up. But is part of your mid back down? You want it to be, especially where your bra strap is. Push there, push there. Yes. Good. Now, as you bring the arms up, everyone, can you start to slide the right leg long? The arms come up as the leg slides beautifully, then nice and net, and then the arms come down and you pause. Yes. From the top of the left thigh, turn that left leg out. Then the knee bends, then the foot turns, and you slide the foot up the inside of the leg. Yeah. Good. So the back of the right heel is down. The right toes feel like they're growing to the ceiling. The left toes feel like they're growing to the front of your yoga mat. And you start to take the arms up and alongside the head. That's it. And again, you go slow enough so that you can feel, I think I call these hookups. You can really feel how the lift of the arms requires that the legs support you. And for anybody that has a lot of lower back tightness, investigate that, because a lot of times the lower back will do the work that the legs should do. Now, can you push out through the right heel more and try to stream the arms longer? Yes, but then notice, Rita, how much did the back overarch? So it's a tricky, I mean, yoga to me is like a Nick Walinda, man. You're like walking that tightrope. It's such a fine line of when wrong muscles will do the work. I think that's more my yoga practice these days than anything else. So push left foot and right inner leg. As you sweep up the arms, you're just going to bring them all the way back down as you slide that left leg long. Awesome. Good. Turn the palms up, everybody, and bring the legs together. As you bring the legs together, think movement comes from the upper thigh. Turn the thighs out, turn the kneecaps out, turn the feet out. And without pulling your feet towards you, bend your knees more to the sides and smear the right foot and the left foot together. So it's just going to be a slight bend of the knees, very, very slight. That's it, Kathy. Okay, great. Now you got to use your core. You're going to start to pull your conjoined feet together towards your pelvis, sliding them up the mat. Oh, a couple of heels came apart in the yoga studio. Try it again. Go back to the front. Don't let the feet come apart. Pretend I Velcroed them together. Slide the heels. Oh, yes. Yeah, good for y'all. Do you feel how different that is? Yes. And then you say, I'm going to slide them back to the front. I'm going to bend both knees and step on my feet. Take the feet, everybody, a little bit wider than the hip. Now, we did this last Friday. Can you tilt the knees to the right just enough to feel the weight shift to the right baby toe and the left big toe? Like, it's not huge. Yeah, good for you, Annette. That's the small movement we're after. And then come back to the beginning and tilt the knees over to the left so the weight gets heavy on the left baby toe and on the right big toe. Yes. And if you feel that, great. Feel now how when you bring the knees back to the beginning, the weight goes over all the feet evenly. That's taking place from the ankles and from the knees. So now you can make the movement bigger if you want. That's cool, to go to the sides, or you can keep it really, really slow. You find more precision when it's slow and not big movement, but sometimes the big movement just feels good. So you go back and forth a couple of times to each side. Yeah, nice. And then as you're doing that, one of the big questions is you're saying, can I feel any of this movement ripple up into my chest? Has my head started to move a little bit from side to side? You want it to, everybody. The head's connected to the rest of the body. So movement of the legs and the pelvis would eventually get the head to move. You want me to demonstrate it, Kathy? Are you good?
You blipped out and I missed everything. I was trying to...
I know you gotta love Zoom.
See.
Yeah, okay, sorry. So what I was saying, I think, was that as you're going from side to side, you're feeling the transfer of weight, they call it, and eventually the head and the neck, it may not be much. Sometimes it's the eyes that will turn, but eventually the head and the neck would turn with the movement of the body. Now, some people, I've noticed this more in left-handed people, they tend to take their heads opposite. But when our head stays stuck in the middle, we're just inviting a real stiffness in the neck. I hope that helped. Eventually slow things down, everybody, and walk the feet closer together so your heels are aligned with your buttocks again. Lift your heels and push your toes down. Yes, and then drop your heels and lift your toes. We'll just do that a couple of times. Cool. Now pause and just do the right foot. We did this 2 weeks ago. Feeling the just incredible difference between the 2 feet. Okay, good. And then make the right foot quiet and just work the left one. Down on the heel, up on the toes. It's great information because now you have an idea of which one is easier. So much to think about. Sometimes I think of yoga as like a Pandora's box. Like open up so much. When you're ready, lengthen the legs long. Turn the palms so that they face upwards. Now don't look, but see if you can feel, are the toes of one foot turned out toward the edge of the yoga mat more than the other? And if you just have to look, go for it. Because it can be so sobering. I'm like, oh, really? I thought they were even. And then I turn and look and they're not at all. Close the eyes, everybody. You did the hard work. Now you get to relax a little bit. So he's talking about the salmon. Some say it is easier for salmon since the power of their drive to end where they begin is not compromised by the endless considerations that often keep us from the truth. Still, it is the heart's capacity to rise one more time after falling down, no matter how bruised, that verifies that such a drive lives in us too. Like salmon, our way depends not just on facing things head on, but in moving our whole being through. And I have to give everybody a huge shout out. That's what you did today in your yoga practice. You moved through the movement, inviting the toes, the heels, the ankles, the knees, the hips, the spine. All of it is moving, is what makes it yoga and not just, a stretching class. So now go back and notice your breath. It might feel like the breath is a little easier. It might feel like the breath is more voluminous. And it may just feel like the mind is quieter. All of which are wonderful things, byproducts of this practice. Check your jaw, everyone. Make sure that your lower jaw is not clamped shut with your upper jaw. Make sure there's a softness to the corners of the mouth and to the inner corners of the eyes. Let the skin of the forehead feel like the last year of tension is erased away. The beautiful thing about working in our feet, even if it's challenging, is it pulls our mental energy out of our mind. think it's one of the reasons why we feel good after yoga. It's like, oh my God, I haven't been thinking about the things that normally cycle through my mind. So however you want to make your way to a seated pose, go slowly this morning. And when you come and sit, just feel how the sitting feels after a lot of work in your feet. There are a lot of bones in the feet. I'll have to go back and look up how many there are, but there are a lot. And you might be more aware of parts of your feet after this class than you are usually. For now, though, just sit, maybe lean back an inch so you feel your tailbone get heavier. As we were concluding yesterday, he's a very sweet 90-year-old man said to me, I wish I had started this sooner. And so the beautiful thing is we're here now and we're working on it. So thank you all for the tenacity that it takes to concentrate on a body part. Namaste, everybody.